Here it is, guys, the RedMagic 5G, and Team Red at RedMagic have been kind enough to send me a European global version of the phone before its release. Pre-orders open on 14th of April, and if you want to be one of 5 lucky winners, head to my description down below. They are currently running an MVP campaign on their website, which starts today, April 1st until April 14th, when the phone goes up for pre-order. We have a SIM ejector tool over there, and we have a little booklet here with a quick start guide. It's nice to see, at least it's in all languages, and we have our USB Type-C to Type-A cable with USB 3.1 speeds, which is really good. They have improved that. And we also have an 18-watt charging block in the box, though RedMagic have informed me that they will be selling 55-watt blocks sold separately on their global website after the release of the phone. I'm hoping to get my hands on that for a charging speed test, so stay tuned for that one. This is the Eclipse Black version of the phone, and I must say it looks absolutely stunning. If you are one to want a gaming phone but you don't want it to look too flashy, they do have gradient versions as well as transparent editions as well. I could not get my hands on one of those yet, since this is indeed a pre-production unit and they only have the black version in pre-production units so far. But in my opinion, this is the best one to get. It is so subtle and neat looking, sometimes it doesn't even strike me as much of a gaming phone. Though turn on those RGB LED lights at the back and you get that. We finally have glass on the back panel over here, which means that we have support for NFC, which is great. And we have a triple camera setup, which has moved away from the single camera setup in the previous RedMagic 3 and 3S. We have a clicky volume rocker over here as well as power button, and we also have touch triggers at the top. These are 300 Hz touch response rate pro triggers, and we have a 16,000 revolutions per minute turbo fan over here, another physical fan which goes in from the one side and out through the other. They have moved the intake vent from the back to the side, which is better, so that when your phone is on a flat panel, it can still breathe properly. Like I said earlier, we have USB 3.1 transfer speeds, which is upping it from the last one, and we have a dual SIM tray here, no support for micro SD. We have dual channel stereo speakers with DTS 7.1 software built into them, and they sound absolutely fantastic. I'll show you that in a later date when I can release more information about the phone. We also have a 3.5mm headphone jack and a 6.65-inch AMOLED 100% DCI P3 panel with a 144 Hz refresh rate and 240 Hz touch response rate panel. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and the main feature here, the main talking point, is that 144 Hz. Here's a quick sneak peek, and later on in the video I will get into more detail about this wonderful 144 Hz panel. Moving on to cameras, here we have a 12 megapixel selfie snapper with 1080p at 30 frames per second with selfie video recording here. Here is the 12 megapixel selfie. I'm limited on what I can show you guys here, but I can show you a quick sneak peek of the picture as well as some video quality, and I must say that it does not have too much light noise when recording with the selfie, which is a good thing. We have a 64 megapixel IMX686 sensor from Sony on the back here with an 8 megapixel ultra wide and 2 megapixel macro sensor. We have 1080p 4K recording at 60 frames per second and 8K recording at 30 frames per second. There is the 8 megapixel ultra wide raw shots shot on pro mode, 64 megapixel main raw sensor, binned down to 16 megapixel over here, and we have a binned pixel shot over here. Moving on to macro, because we have a 2 megapixel macro sensor, dedicated macro sensor. There's my friend Yoda over here, main binned and shot through to portrait, which looks absolutely fantastic on a gaming phone. If you are just going for a gaming phone, you will be pleased to know that it has a pretty damn good set of cameras. 1080p at 60 frames per second looks great, and remember, camera improvements will be happening. This is a pre-production unit of the phone, and it will improve drastically through software updates. 4K 60 over there and 8K 30 frames per second. This is most likely upscaled from 6K in order to get 30 frames per second instead of Samsung's 24 frames per second as seen on the S20 devices. We have the latest RedMagic 3 software skinned over Android 10, and feel free to hit pause over there for more specs. Back to these wonderful refresh rate panels, 60 Hz on the left, 90 Hz in the middle, 144 on the right hand side. I would like to slow this clip down, and I'm going to slow it down even more for you guys in a second, just so that you can see the difference. Here we go, slowed down 10% of 100% true time. Look how much more fluid the 144 Hz panel is. It looks absolutely insane. This is the first mass-produced phone with a 144 Hz panel on it. I cannot tell you guys how excited I was to see this and test it out. It is absolutely incredible. We have a whole bunch of different color modes to light up that wonderful display, as well as sRGB mode, which is great, and some awesome looking dynamic live wallpapers to boot straight from the gallery of Nubia. Nubia in their wallpaper. Now we do have a bit of a bezel on around the phone over here, top and bottom especially, though when we're going to be playing games you don't want your palms to get in the way, so I kind of understand why they didn't take away the top and bottom bezels. We also have dark mode over here. This was pretty hard to turn on and off with previous devices. You had to actually switch themes, but this time around they make it really easy. We also have a screen on clock over here, which they have lacked in previous Nubia RedMagic devices, and they look absolutely awesome. We even have some awesome impressionative video ones over here, and I think it looks really awesome showing the Nubia CPU over there, well obviously the Snapdragon 865. We also have our notification tray at the top over here, which is editable of course and changes with dark mode. We have full screen gestures. The nice thing to see is that you can pull in from the left and right for gestures, but my favorite way, the Samsung, where you can actually pull in from the bottom right and left corner of the phone in order to go back. We can also lock apps over there, and we can do some general multitasking, which you see on most phones. Guys, this is a gaming phone, yes, but it is also an everyday phone if you ask me, and honestly I think this is going to be my new daily driver, especially with the fact that we now have an under display fingerprint sensor. Previous iterations of the phone, the RedMagic 3 and 3S, obviously the original RedMagic and RedMagic Mars, all had physical sensors at the back of the phone. Now this software is absolutely great, but the best thing about the software is that we can go into GameSpace 2.1, and before we do that I just want to show you guys the light bulb at the bottom over there of the phone. It can breathe and it can also be static red over there. You cannot change the color, but it looks absolutely awesome. That is the RedMagic logo. I like the fact that we can check out the cooling fan in regular settings and not have to go into GameSpace for that, but here it is, GameSpace 2.1, your hub of all your games with tons of settings. You can keep all your games here. You can get accessories such as the dock for the phone as well, and we also have the option for customizing the RedMagic logo at the back there. The writing over there looks absolutely fantastic, and you can change it in many multiple ways. We have 16,000 revolutions per minute turbofan, multi-layer graphics, and liquid cooling. It sounds pretty loud and pretty effective when you are gaming. Over here, we're going to shoot over to some games to test out the frames per second. I am using GameBench Pro. See the description for more details on that if you are indeed a developer. We will be testing out Call of Duty Mobile first, and it does indeed have a 60 frames per second cap. So we're not going to be seeing anything more than 60 frames per second, even though we have a 144 Hertz display on the RedMagic 5G over here. Any phone will be able to play this game at 60 frames per second. Of course, on lower settings, we have max settings here, and it has no worries shooting at 60 frames per second. Now on PUBG Mobile, it is called Game for Peace in China, and it is the only version of the game that actually allows for 90 frames per second. So 90 Hertz refresh rate on here can definitely handle it, especially with 144 Hertz, though even with 144 Hertz enabled, it reverts to 90 because the game can only support 90. The regular PUBG Mobile is capped at 60 frames per second, as I said earlier, so Game for Peace can run at 90 frames per second, but only on low graphics settings over here, though it is having no sweat whatsoever running this game at a full 90 frames per second. I'll get into the results of all of the games later on their average frames per second. We're going to shoot over to Bullet Force, which came much before PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile, and it is doing a fantastic job. No frame rate cap over here, guys. Look at the top right corner of the screen over there. 146, 147 frames per second. It is knocking it out the park. I cannot tell you how big the smile was on my face when I saw this. Moving over to Dead Trigger 2, also no frames per second cap over here. 146 frames per second, 143 frames per second, back to 146. It is keeping it really stable, and it is really testing out the Snapdragon 865 processing chip from Qualcomm, run on 7nm plus technology to the max. It is really giving it a run for its money here with the max hertz refresh rate you will ever see on a phone. Well, probably this year anyway. I'm not sure anything more than this would make too much of a difference. And Real Racing 3 GameBench actually did test this out and got 144 Hertz across the board. I wanted to test it out too. It looks absolutely gorgeous on the 6.65 inch AMOLED DCI-P3 color gamut display, and look at that, 146, 147 frames per second. It is doing a breathtaking job, guys. This is absolutely incredible. Here are the average frames per second: 60 on Call of Duty, 90 on PUBG, 146 Bullet Force, 146 Dead Trigger 2, 146 Real Racing 3. Have you ever, guys? This is the RedMagic 5G. It looks absolutely stunning. I love this Eclipse Black Edition. I cannot wait to see the other color variants of the phone. The 144 Hertz is definitely the standout feature of the phone. It doesn't have too many drawbacks if you ask me, and I am really enjoying this phone so far. Stick around for more videos on the RedMagic 5G, and as for now, I'm gonna go play some games, and I'll see you in the next one.